And I think it's very important, whether you're listening or watching this today, is that you're never going to have that breakthrough and go to the next level unless you're willing to invest in yourself first.
Yeah.
What is up, everyone? My name is Rob Sevilla, and I'm back with a brand new Spitting Fire podcast for all of you today. And today I am with my man who lives here locally in North Mississippi, where I live, Mr. Angus Moorman. Angus, say what's up to everyone.
What's up, everybody?
Yeah, I'm so glad to have Angus on the podcast today. And whether you're listening or watching this, I want you to know that we interview leaders, young and old, like Angus, because we want to inspire you to live on purpose. Because I personally live by this mantra. I do these podcasts for this very reason, that I believe you were created on purpose for a purpose. And I pray that something that we talk about today is going to inspire you to step out and start living that dream that I know your Creator has put in all of your heart. So Angus, thank you once again for being on the podcast. And this is actually my first time interviewing someone here in my office locally. And it's exciting instead of having someone on the other side of the computer. So I'm glad to have Angus with me. But Angus, as we get started today, and whatever you feel comfortable with sharing, tell us a little bit about your backstory up to what you're doing today.
Yeah, well, I first want to say I appreciate you having me on. Kind of tell you where I grew up from. I grew up here in Shannon, Mississippi. Got, my brother, full brother. Me and him grew up together, and we went to school at Shannon. Went to high school at Pontotoc, and grew up from a family that was divorced, and mother and dad didn't get along. Started just kind of growing, just wanted to. I kind of grew up as a bad kid, and then kind of came to know the Lord in my 9th grade year. My buddy Trevor led me to Christ, and I seen something different in him. And as I got to grow closer to him, I seen that. I needed a relationship with my father, and just kind of from there is when a big transition happened in my life of a lot of growth. But then once I got out of high school, I had a kid about when I was about 19 years old. Had him young. I loved the kid to death, and about 2022, I was working at Room to Room, and I started my own business. I just started praying, Lord, if this is what you want me to do, I just ask that you provide the customers for me. And, I just stepped out in faith, stepped out in faith,
Right.
Didn't get held back by fear, and just took that action and let God provide customers. And our first year, we ended up serving 170 customers in the moving industry.
Yeah.
And, we ended up grossing about $170,000. So about $1,000 a person per job, or I guess, right out that. And this year we're looking to grow, serve more customers, and we served 170, so we want to 10x that. I want to serve about 1,700, get our revenue up to 1.7 mil, and just, take that massive action. And, that's something that Grant talks about, is taking massive action.
Sure.
And something that I always do is I'm a go-getter.
Sure.
I'm a go-getter until the job's done.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much about it.
No, that's awesome. I want to dissect that a little bit here. And if you're listening or watching today, I think you need to understand a couple of things. Number one is even some of the adversity that you faced as a younger man, parents divorced, you could have let that hold you back, and you didn't. And I'm not saying it didn't affect you, but a lot of times, I think if you're watching this today or listening to this, a lot of times we can let the mess of yesterday keep us from the mission that I believe God has for us today, right? And so I love the fact that you were able to overcome some of that, and then had a child at a young age with someone, and said, hey, I could have let that hold me back, and go, well, now my life's over, or whatever the case may be. Because I've seen some people use that as an excuse to not live on purpose, but you chose to say, okay, I'm blessed with this child. Now, I know this is part of God's plan for my life now. So what do I need to do to continue to live on purpose? So I love that part of it. But how old are you currently?
I'm 22 right now.
22 years old. Okay. last year was your first year in the moving business.
Yes, sir.
Right? Just in this case that wasn't clear. He's in the moving business. Excuse me. And you did
70,000.
170,000. Now, I want you to, for everyone's listening or watching this today, I want you to tell them, what size town do you live in or you're born in?
Yeah, so Shannon, I think there's probably a population of like 1,000 people. It's a real small town, right outside of Tupelo. With it being Tupelo, Tupelo is a little bit bigger.
Sure.
And something that we also do is we do serve within 180 miles of Tupelo. So that does help out a lot instead of just saying in this little small town. So I think that's where a lot of it helps out, not just staying in one's position all my life, just wanting to grow. And that helps out a lot for me.
Yeah. Well, the reason I bring that up is because, once again, small town, you've had some adversity in your life. You faced some challenges. You could have used all of that as an excuse. So my question, and I know the audience wants to hear this as well, is why didn't you use it as an excuse? What was it in you that said, I got to keep going and I got to make something for myself?
Well, I feel like once you're given a purpose in life, feel like once you're called to do something, you can't ever not, answer that call. It's like something just behind you, always pushing you. And I feel like that's how it's been for my whole life. I could always do more. If I could always do more, then why sit there and complain? There's people that I see that's handicapped, disabled and stuff, and I see them doing stuff. And I'm like, if they could do this and not complain, why do I have the right to complain? Because they got it way worse than me. And, that right there, I think that helps push me a lot. And then, I want my son to have a future that I didn't have, to have a lot of different opportunities in his life and, to grow, see the world and, be out and about and, talk to people and get to know himself, get to know him. So like when he's 15 or 13, even younger, I have the opportunity for him to help me in my business, help move customers, all you got to do is pick up a box, pack it, wrap it, do it right and, load it on a truck. And, once you're loaded on the truck, at 14 years old, at the time when he's 14, prices will be way higher. And, for a 13, 14-year-old, having a business that he could operate when he's about 18. I think that's what drives me a lot, having my son to have that opportunity one day.
Yeah. And I love being around Angus. I started an entrepreneur luncheon about 7 months ago now. It seems like just yesterday. And we started it here locally in my town because I wanted to be around other entrepreneurs and be inspired and share business ideas and build relationships and friendships. Because as you well know, sometimes it can be kind of a lonely place out there and you feel like you're the only one sometimes on an island. And when I first met Angus, he was referred to our luncheon from a mutual friend. And just right away, man, I love the energy. I love the passion. I always tell people you can't be around Angus very long and not get motivated. I mean, first year, just took action, 6 figures in the moving business, 170 clients.
Yes, sir.
Is that right? And then I think you told me earlier, a few weeks back that you were on track to really do way more than that.
Yes, sir.
For this year. And I'm bringing this up, and I sound like a broken record, but because whether you're listening or watching this today, quit making excuses.
That's right.
You can either make excuses or you can execute. You can either be the victim or you can be the victor. You can either allow healing from all the trauma and pain. And listen, I'm not discounting what some of you have been through. I want to be very clear. But what I am saying is you can be healed from that and you can use it on purpose, not only to live on purpose in your own life, but listen, this story right here that you're listening to is impacting you that are listening or watching this today. So I always tell people your pain can be a prison. Or it can be a catalyst for other people, not just yourself. See, our dream, we can't be stingy with our dream, ladies and gentlemen. It's not always about us, right? There's other people that I believe are waiting to hear this story that go, if Angus can do it,
I can do it.
I can do it. Just like you said, some of those handicapped people or less fortunate people out there, you're going, well, if they can do it, I can do it. So your story matters. I cannot say that enough. Your story matters. So share it with the world and start doing something with it. So I want to talk about something too, because you mentioned Grant Cardone. I know you've been to 10X. You just went to 10X in Las Vegas. You've invested in some of his coaching and some of his programs. Let me ask you, because there's a lot of people out there that go, well, I don't have the money to do that, or that just seems like expensive. And you don't have to give us pricing or anything, but just what was it that you said, I want to invest in myself? Why did you decide to take that leap of faith and do that?
Well, I think most importantly, I wanted to learn because I got into Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
And the main takeaway I got out of that book, I'm not a reader, and something about that book just connected with me and taught me stuff that I really wanted to learn. I never liked school. I hated school. I still hate it. And anyways, so my main takeaway was you don't miss out on opportunities because you do know. You miss out on opportunities because you don't know.
That's good.
So I took that and I'm like, dang, I missed out on so many opportunities in my life. So this year for 2023 is a year of just growing, just learning and growing and multiplying. Because as I'm growing and learning, I could close more deals. So, I don't know how, I didn't know you could even teach selling, but I even sold 170 customers last year. And then once I got with Grant, like I went to the first boot camp in January, and that kind of opened a doorway for me. I'm like, oh my gosh, they teach this stuff because I never knew about it. I grew up from Mississippi where my mother teaches you, not to talk about your finances, where they teach you, don't talk to strangers. But then you go to these networking events, who buys from you? Strangers. So that's like what I've been taught all my life has been a fraud. And then you just get out there and you start listening to these billionaires, millionaires like Grant and them and his team. And you're like, you're just blown away by what you can do in this world when you step out and you take action. And I was, that's probably, my main thing is just wanting to learn, have that, go about it is wanting to learn. So, I've been to 3 events now, plan on going to one every month this year and just learning as much as I can, get my guys on my team to, go with me and, learn for themselves, how to grow a business, how to take action and, how to sell, how to be a leader, how to grow, how to market, all of these different things Grant teaches. And, it's valuable. And, it's also a tax write-off too.
Right. So. Yeah. And what's interesting about that is it's funny. That's the only word I can think of right now that we tend to default and listen to people that are less successful than us. And, don't want to hate on family and friends. We love them, right? We love family and friends. But if they're not where you want to go, then why are you listening to them about money, finances, or whatever the case may be, right? So you've invested in yourself by going and listening to a billionaire and his team say, Angus, we're going to show you how to 10X your business. And I think it's very important, whether you're listening or watching this today, is that you're never going to have that breakthrough and go to the next level unless you're willing to invest in yourself first. Right? Same thing. I go to conferences. Every time I go to conferences and I hear different speakers, I'm always looking to pull away 1 to 2, maybe 3 nuggets, right? You're not going to learn everything,
you can't.
But just take you a couple of nuggets, bring it back, implement it. And every time I go and network and get in the room with people that are way smarter than me, my business grows, right? And you're seeing the same thing. So let me ask you something. What's the biggest difference in Angus from, if you can kind of narrow it down, what's one of the biggest breakthroughs or one of the biggest differences that you see in yourself from a year ago until you started investing in yourself until now?
That's a good question, Mr. Rob. Really good. 'Cause I like to, stay humble about myself. And, so I think, but a lot of it is just knowing a lot more now than I ever have. So, I know how to make 6 figures a year now. I'm on my way to making 7 figures this year. So, it's just taking, I think I take more action, because I know.
That's good.
So like, Elon Musk, I see the only difference between me and Elon is he knows. I don't know anything. I work just as hard. I got, the mindset, all of it. And I just don't know. So my big takeaway, is just probably learning more knowing more about a business, knowing more about the outside real world than I ever have, how everything operates, systems, funnels, and so on.
Yeah. And I know you're a humble kid, man. I love that about you. I love your spirit to want to learn. But even at our entrepreneur luncheon, I'm going to say everybody there is probably 20 years older than you or 15 years older than you. And here comes Angus in and is, 22 years old, right?
Yes, sir.
And I'm 48, so it makes me feel really old. And I go, I wish I would have been more like you when I was 22. And you're exactly right. It's hard to go to the next level if you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But most people, they just go, well, because I don't know, I'll just stay ignorant the rest of my life and nothing ever happens. You chose not to do that despite coming from a small town, having some challenges and adversity in your life. And once again, you could have used it as an excuse, but you didn't. Let me ask you this. Besides Robert Kiyosaki and besides Grant Cardone, is there any other book or speaker or millionaire or billionaire that's made an impact on your life that go, that really resonated with me and touched me to the point that it caused me to want to do more?
Yeah, well, I think, David Coggins.
Okay, yeah.
That's an animal. He does not put up with anything.
Yeah.
It's all about, taking action. If you're not taking action, you're a lazy piece of crap.
Yeah.
And he says that.
Yeah,
and, that's, that puts fire to me, because I don't want to be considered lazy.
Yeah.
I want to be considered one of the most hardworking people. So I do the most hardworking stuff. I think moving furniture is probably, it's not hard because I got a great team to do it with, but it's one of the most physical demanding, going up 4 flights of stairs with furniture. Mm-hmm. And we just did a 20-hour shift Sunday, and nobody can say they're going to outwork me. But because I know I'm taking 20-hour shifts, got up the next day, got in at 4, got up at 7 a.m. And that's something that David done, he's always he takes a lot of action.
Sure.
And, I don't know if you know about a story about, running the marathons.
Sure. Yeah.
So, the marathons, going beyond past what his body can do. And it's because it's really all a mindset. You could do way more than what your mind tells you can do. Sure. You just got to do it. And that just kind of seeing him, hearing his story and, seeing what he does, that puts fire under me.
Yeah, he's definitely a machine, man. He's a beast. I listen to his stuff as well, man. It's really hard to be lazy after listening to that guy. You want to go run like 30 miles or something, So I definitely agree with you on that. So somebody's listening and watching today.
Okay.
And maybe just life has beat them up, right? Maybe they've had some challenges in their life. Maybe they've just going through some things. What is something you would tell them right now, whether they're listening or watching this today? What is some advice that Angus would give them to get them motivated, right? Like to go, this is what I would do to start taking action today. Go ahead.
So would you say, like, if you're down and out in a business, or are you saying
I would just say down and out in life? And maybe they have a business mind, right? Business dream in their mind, because, and maybe you share with us, what was it when you were working at JOB that you go, hey, I have this business idea and I'm just going to take massive imperfect action until it comes a reality. Maybe they need to hear that from you, right? Or maybe they're just down and out in life. Maybe their business is down, but just in general, what would you say? Hey, you need to snap out of it. Like, start taking action and doing this today.
Yeah. So I think just having a goal in life. So, listen to all these people, like Grant Cardone. I'm big with Grant, so you probably hear me say a lot about him. But so Grant, he talks about, there's 4 different kinds of action. You got massive action, you got massive action, you got action, you got little action or no action.
Right.
And if you're committed, you ain't got nothing. There's nothing in your way that's going to distract you. So if your goal, is to, become, to have $1 million, this year, and you take that massive action, you become committed to it, and you can't let nothing distract you. I've noticed, my past year, I've got my grandma, she's battling with cancer, and, I can sit around and mope about it, but I also got to let God do his thing.
Sure.
So that kind of pushes me as well, gets me off of my train, through prayer, I know that, the problems that I'm struggling with right now is just a glimpse, it's nothing.
Right.
And because I know in eternity, we're going to have a we're not going to have none of it.
Yeah.
We're not going to have nothing bad or anything. But,
Yeah.
Just staying committed to the goal, I think, would keeps me going. I tell myself every day, Angus, where do you want to be? Where do you want to be? When I catch myself on my phone or whatever and just kind of being down and out, I'm like, I get down and out because I'm not taking action.
Sure.
So like, that's why I take so much action, because I struggle. Like, my mind rolls all the time.
Yeah,
so
I get it. Yeah.
So like, I try to, if I stay goal focused, that then distracts me.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I would say, if I get down and out, I would always remind myself, what's your goal, Angus? What's your goal? What's your goal? What's your purpose? And that helps out a lot.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And it's interesting that when you're taking massive action, I call it massive imperfect action, because a lot of times you just got to take action. It's not going to be perfect at first.
Yeah, that's right.
It's going to be sloppy. It's going to be messy, but you got to be willing to, let me Christian cuss for a minute. You got to be willing to suck at something, right, long enough to get good at it.
That's right.
And that's why a lot of people never have that breakthrough. They're not willing to suck at something long enough to get good at it, right? When you made that move from your job to saying, hey, I can do this moving thing, I'm sure that in the first few months, maybe even the first year, you had a lot of imperfections and things happening, but it didn't stop you.
No, it did not.
Because you had a goal.
I had that goal.
And I love the way John Maxwell says it, and I think it pertains to what you've been talking about these last few minutes, is John Maxwell takes it to another level. He says to not only be goal-oriented, to be growth-oriented.
Yep.
And isn't it interesting that as you grow, so do your goals.
Yeah,
your goals change.
That's crazy how it works.
Right. And it's interesting that when I'm taking this massive imperfect action, if you will, that it seems like all the things that I thought were so wrong, it's like they kind of just disappear.
Yeah.
Right. And once again, I want to be very clear. Life sucks sometimes.
It does.
Things happen. You just heard what Angus said. He's human. I'm human. Sometimes we want to play on the phone. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we want to go binge watch Netflix. Sometimes we want to go stuff our face full of things and just forget about stuff. Right.
Yeah.
That's being human.
Yeah.
But the most successful people, as you well know, do more of the action stuff more than they do the other stuff. Because they're human too.
Yeah.
I've listened to them on their podcast going, hey, I went and just stuffed my face full of ice cream and just binge watched this for a few hours, because they're human. But it's learning how to be consistent and disciplined in the growth stuff more than just the norm, what everybody else does.
Yeah.
So I love that you bring that up. Let me ask you this from a leadership standpoint. Okay. As you lead your guys, right? And you have a team of how many guys?
4. It's 4
guys.
Of us.
What do you think is a leadership principle or a leadership habit, a trait? What do you think as a leader you must possess? Now, there's a lot of things, but let's just focus on 1 or 2 that you think, hey, I, Angus, have to possess this in order to lead these guys well.
Yeah. So I think that's a really good question too, Mr. Rob. You're putting them on me.
Yeah, that's all right.
I think really would be, you can't tell your guys to do anything that you wouldn't do. So I think when they see somebody that's hungry and driven to the goal that he wants to reach, with anybody, I see somebody hungry to, for a goal that they're reaching, it motivates me.
Sure.
So like, I think that helps out a lot. You know, if they see me motivated, not really necessarily motivated, but committed and dedicated to it, that, they become that, once they see that progress of growing and growing. And I've got a great guys on my team, one of them's been with me since the beginning. And every time we've, had something change, everything's changed. He's been willing to change himself. His name is Ethan. And we got, Hayden, he just came on, and Dylan came on. So Hayden, he's a really good guy. And, Dylan, your son, so he's really good. You know? So we, they see me goal driven, that helps them. And then Grant also talks about paying your guys well. So you can't have great people working for you if you don't pay great. So I think that helps out a lot,
Yeah. Listen, I think he just took us to church there for a minute. That's a true statement. Some of you want to pay nothing, but have greatness, right? Or great people. And the reality is you've got to take care of your people.
That's right.
You got to take care of your people. And I love what you said. You got to lead by example. You got to lead from the front, right? I'm in here and I don't want to work the phones. I don't want to make cold dials. I don't want to call people, but I know that I have to, because one day when we're blessed with other agents here in the office, I know that in order for them to want to have that breakthrough and stay hungry, I got to stay hungry.
Yep.
They got to see me being hungry.
Yep.
So I love that you're talking about leading from the front. I ask everybody that comes on the podcast this. If there was one word you would use to describe yourself, what would that one word be?
I'd probably say dedicated.
Dedicated. Okay, so let's go to part B. How is that dedication or being dedicated help you get to the level that you're at today in your business?
Well, dedication goes a long way, I think, because once you're dedicated, you don't let anything distract you. You know, I do sometimes get a little sidetracked, but I ain't going to say it takes me off course.
Sure.
Because I've had, you know, my biggest thing is with women, you know, getting or talking to a lady and I get sidetracked. And, you know, I got to tell myself, Angus, you could do that later. You can have fun later. You can talk to ladies later. And so I try to stay away from it. So I stay off of my phone with, you know, Snapchat. So I try to stay off of it. You know, I just go through there and just open stuff. And then, you know, try not to talk to anybody back. So, you know, that's my biggest, you know, struggle is just, you know, staying away from the ladies and, you know, trying to stay, you know, focused on my goal, you know, because that's my biggest thing is I want to hit 1.7 mil. You know, that would be, you know, I done told my mom, I said, Mom, you can count me in. I'm hitting 1 million this year. And she's like, okay. And, you know, that she's like, I want to see that, you know, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get this done. And that pushes me right there.
Yeah, I love that. And listen, if there's any ladies, good looking ladies out there watching this, he's not saying he don't like the ladies. What he's saying is that he's dedicated to his goal. But I also love this, Angus, and I think you would agree with this. The mindset that you had last year in 2022 is not going to be good enough to grow to that 1 million for this year.
Yes, right.
So you're constantly growing, right? That's that growing part again, right? The Angus of 2022 has to be different now than he was back then.
That's right.
Because to hit 7 figures, you can't do that with just a 6-figure mindset.
That's right.
Right. And that's why you're investing in yourself. That's why you're growing yourself and getting to these conferences and these boot camps and getting around really smart people and learning these things. So I want to go back because I kind of skipped over it, but you talked about working a job.
Yes, sir.
And that was at a local place here, furniture store.
Yeah.
And were you doing deliveries there, or what were you doing there?
Yeah, so I was working at Room to Room.
Yeah.
I was delivering the furniture to the customer's house, and so like every time I went to a customer's house, none of them, every single one of them always said something great about us. They always, you know, called back Miss Lisa or the office at Room to Room and always said something positive about our services that we did out on the job. And my partner, his buddy. Actually, that's how I kind of got into the moving was because he was on his buddy moved from Saltillo to Texas and he got me in contact with him and his Integrity Moving Services is his business and they're based out of Austin, Texas. Okay. And so that kind of, once I got in contact with him, he was like, dude, you could do it easy, you know, and I was like, you know, thinking small, you know, I can't do this, you know. But if anybody can do it, I can do it. So I'm like, you know, let me just try. Let me just talk to the Lord. And that's where, you know, kind of talk to, you know, being from Room to Room, you know, stopping there. Great place. Don't let me say Room to Room wasn't great. It was the best place I've worked at. But, you know, I had a goal, you know, I wanted to do. You know, I've always wanted to make more money, you know, make more money than the next person and always, you know, be a service to others. And, you know, once you're serving others, I think, you know, the money comes in, you know. The more people you serve, the more people you help, you know, the money's going to come.
Yeah.
So
no, I love that. And I teach that too, that when we are mission minded more than money minded, or when we chase impact more than income, it's interesting that the income just comes and the money just comes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Even in our business, the insurance business, we treat it as a ministry and we serve people. We love people. We get to pray with our clients. And we have found that when we legitimately just want to make an impact and serve at the highest level, it's like we just get blessed back. Like the blessings just come. And I love that. And that's a nugget for somebody out there because maybe you're not living on mission.
Yeah.
You're just so money focused. And listen, we all like money. Nobody's saying we don't like money. I like money.
I do too.
But the reality is there's more fulfillment in life when you're living on mission.
Yeah.
When you're living on purpose. There's something that when you go to bed at night, it's just like there's this congruency, this alignment between you and your divine creator, because we were created to live on purpose in such a way that brings him glory. And I believe the best way to do that is to impact other people's lives.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's what you're doing.
I'm glad you said that, because, on the back of our business card, our verse on there is 1 Peter 4:10. As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. And, what does that say? Serve one another.
Yeah.
And once you serve, kind of like you said, when I serve a customer, I'm in it for the money. Don't get me wrong. But what brings me the most joy, the most satisfaction out of that is when that customer says, Angus, I couldn't have done it without you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's what gets me every time, we have an older customer, because that's what we started for, is we wanted to help, older families, older ladies, older men, move into their new home, and they can't lift their furniture.
Sure.
So that's where we come in, and they're like, Angus, you have been awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that just brings me joy, that knowing what I do is good for my customers.
Yeah, and I love that you brought that up, because here's the reality, is when we're a good steward or a good manager of the gift or gifts that was given to us, I believe we're blessed more.
Yeah.
Right? Because our creator, God, says, hey, I can bless you with more, because that's what the scripture says. When we're faithful in the little, he can trust us with more.
Yep.
The problem is, many of us that may be watching this today, I don't know, but or listening to this, maybe you haven't been faithful and a good steward of that gift.
Yeah.
And now you're listening to someone like Angus saying, hey, this is how I live my life. And maybe it's going to inspire you, encourage you to start living on purpose and taking those gifts more seriously. And I know I've been there. I wasted a lot of years in my life, and I hate that I've done that. But now I can use that testimony to help other people, that story to impact others, to go, hey, don't do what I did. Right. And I love the fact that you're sharing your story. So as we get ready to wrap up today, I kind of want to stay just for a second longer, if I can, about, you transitioning, because it was probably scary, leaving room to room.
It was.
Guaranteed money.
Yeah.
Your friends telling you can do this, but, you're like, yeah, but. So what was it, though? Like, what was the final determining factor for you, where one day you just woke up and said, I'm doing this no matter what. I'm going after it. No plan B. I'm burning everything else down, and I'm going after it. Was there a moment that you just knew, I can really do this?
Well, like I said in the beginning, it was stepping out in faith, and, not being held back by fear. And when you step out in faith like that, that's where I think that's where it was just letting God, allowing God to do it, his part. I told him I would do it, and I just needed the customers. And, the customers, I was working a 9 to 5, and the customers just kept rolling, and I couldn't do it no more. So I was like, oh gosh, I got to quit. And, I didn't want to quit, because room to room was a great place to work at. I love working there. I'd be happy to work back there again, help deliver furniture to their customers and, give them a great moving experience. But it was just that stepping out in faith. Like, you got to step out in faith. You can't be held back by fear. That's with anything in life. Step out in faith. Don't be held back by fear. And that's where I think my breakthrough was, just trusting God.
Yeah.
I think that's where it really came from, was just trusting him.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting that we get so crippled by fear?
Oh, man.
And even today, I think you would probably agree with this, still fear tries to creep in.
Yeah, it does.
Right? Because now you're trying to go to 7 figures from 6 figures. And now you're like, well, that's scary, a bigger team. I'm going to need more trucks, or, whatever the case may be. But I love the fact that you were even willing just to take action. And you didn't have a big 18-wheeler truck to move stuff in, right? And you didn't have the biggest team to work with, but you still said, I have a dream.
Mm-hmm.
I have a goal for my life, and I want to leave something for my family, for my son, right? And you were, and I love the way Ed Milet says it. He says, your dream can't be for sale.
Yep.
That's why I tell people, my dream is not for sale. That's why I come in here and do what I have to do every day, because my dream is not for sale. I want to leave an inheritance to my kids' kids, right? As the Bible says, I want to leave an inheritance not only my kids, but to their kids and the next generation and so on. And I want to leave that generational wealth. And it's more than just money. I want to leave them the growth side of things too. I want to teach my kids how to grow.
Yeah.
how to pick up a book, how to watch a video, how to, fill your mind full of positive content. So as we close today, and I'm a real preacher, so a real preacher closes like 4 times. So if you're watching this today, you're going like, you just said that like 5 minutes ago. I promise we're closing. But let me ask you this. What is one way that you keep yourself fueled up every day? Because you have a lot of energy. I don't know if you can feel it on the camera, but when you're around him in real life, I mean, you just leave there. He's like a little bit, not as violent David Coggins, right? He's more like a country David Coggins. But you leave your presence feeling motivated and excited, and that says a lot about you. Mm-hmm. But what is it that you do to feed that every day? Is it videos? Is it books? Is it podcasts? What are you doing to feed yourself every day?
I think it's just being committed. My goal for the end of my business is to be all over the United States, serving, I want to knock out every moving company. That's honestly what I want to do, to where nobody uses anybody else but house to house.
Sure.
And, it's going to take a lot to get there.
Yeah.
I already know it is. Yeah. But, once I figure out how to get it stationed here, and once I learn it here, I know I can move to the next, start it somewhere else, go somewhere else. Because I know that nobody's going to provide better services than us. Mm. So once I stay dedicated, I stay committed to that. I love that you say you're motivated, but I like to say it's commitment. I'm committed to it. That's the mindset, you need to have, because even when bad days do come, I had a bad day yesterday, but I stayed committed. I found something that I could do to stay productive. I might have worked, a little bit less hours. I normally work about 16 hours a day. I may have just did, 2 less hours, but I did something to stay productive even on my bad days, and just did something to get on out about my day. And, what can I do each day? What can I do? So is it marketing? Is it door knocking, cold calling?
Right.
What can I do to, gain another customer, to serve another customer? How can I gain more customers? And it's always like a game. It's like a game to me, I think.
Sure.
So I like something like, going to all these events with Grant Cardone with sales. I thought, selling was just just something that you just naturally have. And apparently it's something that you can teach. And I was, that was something that, I was always telling my guys, just go out there and sell, and I ain't never sold anything. So it was kind of funny, but it's like, it's like a game now. Like, how can I close this client? How can I close this client?
Sure.
What does this customer want? How can I provide services to this customer?
Sure.
And it just kind of, I think just staying committed, really, like, I try not to get sidetracked. If I notice myself sidetracking, I literally tell myself, boom, get on track, Angus.
Sure.
So that's.
Yeah, I love that, because when motivation wears out or wears off, which it does, right? We can all leave a conference or listen to a podcast and get juiced up, but it wears off, like you said, in those bad days. But when you're committed, right, you have a mission that you're on. And I like to say it this way, that the best people that make the most impact in sales are those that realize that sales is not something we do to people, but for people.
Yeah.
And that's what you're saying. You're saying, I'm doing this for my clients. I'm so committed to making this happen for my client, right? That I'm not going to take no right off the bat, because I know that I'm doing something for them.
Yeah.
I'm impacting their life by house to house coming into their life is impacting them for the positive. Yep. And maybe some of you today are not fully convinced. Mm-hmm. Maybe you're only partially convinced of the goal or the dream. And if you're only partially convinced, you're only going to give a half-hearted effort towards it. But like what you're saying, I'm fully convinced. Mm-hmm. I'm fully convinced that God created me to live on purpose for a purpose, and no one's going to talk me out of it. And therefore, because I'm fully convinced and I believe it, it manifests through my productivity, right? And that's really what you're saying today. So as we close, a lot of people that watch this, we have people in different spaces, because I'm in the insurance space. We have a lot of people that watch it there. Yeah. I've interviewed pastors and other leaders. So there's all kinds of different entrepreneurs that watch this. What is some last piece of advice you would give somebody as we close today, that you would say, you know what, I want them to know this, that you think maybe would help them take that step of faith to begin to live out that dream?
Yeah, so this is what got me questioning about a lot of things. So I was sitting down in my room, or I don't know where I was. I might have been in the car. And I just started thinking about Elon Musk, his wealth. And I was like, let's just do some random math, So I started doing, just $10,000 a day times 365, which would be a year. And I timed that by like 400. I was at only $1.1 billion, I think. It might have been even just 1 million. I don't know. I don't remember. I know it wasn't, nowhere near his wealth.
Yeah.
And I think, just ended up, I wanted more because I know, like Elon, everybody always says, if I could do it, you could do it. I know people say that, but like, what do you want in life? I think that would be my big question. What do you want in life? Do you want, do you want a great future with your family? Do you want to go on vacation? Do you want to take time off and do whatever you want? I think I do. Like, I ain't gonna lie, I want to be able to go wherever, however I want. And, take my family with me.
Sure.
Going with my grandma on a cruise is, coming up this month. And, getting to, have that time with my family, outside of my work life, even though, I didn't want to go to the cruise because, I want to work. But, I know that I needed to, go with my grandma because, like I said, she's got cancer. So I wanted to spend that time with her. But my goal is to make something for my son, build something for my future, build something for his future. And I think that would be, my main thing for y'all would be, what is your goal in life?
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're watching this today, type that in the YouTube comments down below.
Yeah.
Let us know what you want. What is your goal in life?
Yeah.
And if you don't know what you want, okay, and the goal, then do what he did. Find someone way smarter than you. It doesn't have to be the Grant Cardone right now. Maybe you're not in a place to do that. But find someone in your circle. And if they're not in your circle, then go outside of your circle. But find someone who's way smarter, who's way better at this financial thing, who's way better at this wealthy thing and business thing. And you go and say, whatever it takes, teach me.
Yeah.
Right? Teach me. Teach me your ways, if you will. And you're willing to be their Luke Skywalker, so and they're going to be your Yoda, if I can use that Star Wars. Or I'm a little bit older, way older than Angus, but when I was a kid, it was Karate Kid. Let them be your Mr. Miyagi, right? Let them be your Mr. Miyagi, and you be the Daniel son, and you go do what you have to do to learn their ways, because that's the only way. I love that what you said earlier is I just don't know. Right? So you're on your way to 7 figures because you want to know what it takes to get to 7 figures, right? He made 6 figures last year, but he had to find out the no. He had to learn what it was that people that are making 6 figures are doing.
Yep.
And isn't it interesting, Angus, that when you start really studying successful people, you just find out that they're very consistent in doing a lot of the things that unsuccessful people won't do.
Yep. It's crazy how it all works.
And you, like, sometimes you think you're just going to get like this big revelation from God, and he's going to drop these new 10 commandments down for you, a business. But then you listen to these wealthy people and you go, wait a minute. All he's doing is he's turning the TV off more than I am.
Yeah.
He's reading the books more than I am.
Yeah.
He's listening to the more positive content than I am. Yeah. He's going to conferences more than I am. He's getting in the room, or she's getting in the room more than I am.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that when you get in those rooms, your no meter, if I can put it that way, your knowing meter goes up.
Yep.
And you start to learn. So thank you, man.
You're very
Thank
welcome.
you for coming and giving us a 30,000 foot view of your story and sharing this. I know it's going to impact some lives when this drops. And listen, I just want to say this as we close today. First thing first, please like, comment, subscribe below, turn on the notifications, because we drop content all the time. I do daily motivation, and then I do interviews like this, usually once or twice a month. And then we drop some other content as well. So I would love for you to be notified by that. Yeah. But I just want to say this to you. Maybe life has just sucked the wind out of your sails. Maybe you just feel like I can't go on. Maybe you've had a failed relationship or failed business, or maybe you've had some really bad stuff happen to you in your life. But can I just tell you something? You can dream again.
Yeah.
And there's always tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. There's now.
Well, yeah, there's now and there's tomorrow. But here's the thing. You're still alive. You're still here for a reason.
Yeah. And
so ask yourself, what is it that you want? Like Angus just told us, what is it that you want? Write it down. Get crystal clear. And I promise you that if you'll start investing in yourself and believing in yourself again, you'll begin to see your life change.
Mm-hmm.
And so God bless you guys. And listen, you got to make it an awesome day.
Yeah.
Awesome days just don't come around. You got to make an awesome day. They're not just handing out a lot of awesome days nowadays, right? But you can make it an awesome day.
Hey, and I'll tell you this, when you're saying that, staying awesome, if you stay productive and serving somebody, you're going to be happy.
Yeah.
That's something else I'd say.
Yeah. No. Hey, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. And I just want to say, God bless you guys. Make it an awesome day. And we'll see you next time.
Y'all have a good one.